What's going on YouTube? So just last year, the 4Runner was completely redesigned, upping the tech, luxury, and the capability of this model to a new level.
And for 2026, Toyota is continuing to add some tweaks and some extra capability to this model.
And we want to know, is this the ultimate rugged family SUV that you could put in your driveway? Let's go ahead and find out. All right, so let's start off today's video under the hood. So you have two different powertrain selections, which were both fully redesigned last year. This is the standard option, the 2.4-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, making 278 horsepower. It's got an 8-speed automatic transmission, and with 4-wheel drive, we're rated at 21 mpg combined.
Now, the base price of the 4Runner this year is $41,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, of course, we will take this out for a spin and show you what it's like out on the road. We'll also get things like our sound level reading, but first we need to go ahead and close up the hood and take a look at the exterior as well as the interior.
Now, like we mentioned at the introduction of the video, this vehicle was just fully redesigned. And what Toyota really did was zero in on the things that make 4Runner a 4Runner, those classic design cues, and then just add a little bit of modernization. So I think this overall looks very handsome. Now, there's a lot of different versions you can get this 4Runner in. Each different trim level will come with some tweaks to the front end design as well as other places on the vehicle. What you're looking at today is the TRD Sport. So this is a model that's going to give you a little bit of a more aggressive stance in terms of the presentation of your fascia. This also has the hood scoop up top here, which I think looks quite nice. Now, as far as your ground clearance, though, it doesn't really matter which model you choose. You're always going to get quite a bit of capability, at least 8.1 inches of ground clearance, but it can go all the way up to 10.1 inches when you're talking about the hardest core trim levels. Taking a look at our lighting, next we have full LED headlights. Those are standard on all models. This is your standard arrangement though, so it's got the incandescent turn signal indicator. You can get a higher end arrangement on the limited trim and above with a dynamic LED turn signal. And then you have your LED fog lights integrated right there. As we walk to the back, just like with the front, we have a design that both kind of carries on the heritage of the 4Runner, but also has some modernization added in.
Absolutely. I think it looks really fantastic. And as far as design touches, we have a spoiler up here at the top. We have a wiper integrated underneath. Toyota is spelled out across the back. And let's take a look at our taillights. Our taillights are going to be really nice looking. They have a darkened finish to them, a clear lens, and they're also going to be fully LED. So as you can see, we have the LED brake light, LED turn signal, and LED reverse light. I definitely like that element. 4Runner branding is going to be blacked out. And then as far as your tow rating, it comes in at 6,000 pounds, which is very good for this type of vehicle.
And I also want to mention that you get underbody protection on your off-road models. Now let's talk about the wheel options. You're going to have 18 or 20-inch alloy options. TRD Sport is actually the most affordable trim level to give you the 20-inch alloys. As you can see, we've got a contrast design on board, and then you've got these thick wheel arches that go around the outside edges. As far as the suspensions are concerned, each version, again, is going to have some special suspension tweaks depending on the purpose of that trim level. With the TRD Sport, this is more street-oriented, so this has a sport-tuned suspension. You can also get an adaptive variable suspension on your top models, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the test drive. Now, as far as your mirrors are concerned, we have standard blind spot monitoring. TRD Sport adds heating, and you can get power folding on the limited and above.
Now at the side of the 4Runner, overall vehicle length is 194.9 inches, and as far as design, you will notice a lot of blacked out elements, including our window surrounds, as well as kind of this piece of glass going all the way up to the roof. You also have raised roof rails and the crossbars installed on this model. And when it comes to paint color, I do want to point out a 2026 change. Wavemaker, it's a very cool color, is now available on the TRD Pro, so if you want that very bold exterior design, certainly would recommend checking that out. Now, when it comes to safety, Toyota doesn't mess around. You get all of your active safety features as standard equipment on every single 4Runner. We've got a lot to talk about on the inside as well, so let's get to that. But first, If you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from sound level readings to cargo measurements, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, now let's check out the interior. First, here's our key fob. As you can see, 4Runner branded, and you have a standard smart entry system on all models. That means getting inside the vehicle, all you have to do is reach behind the handle. That will unlock the door. Now, let's take a look inside here at our TRD Sport Premium model. Just like with the exterior, again, the inside very highly customizable. So let me talk about some of the different options that you get. A fabric seat is what's going to be standard. That's going to be on the SR5 as well as your TRD Sport and off-road models. However, when you choose the premium package like we have today, that upgrades the seat to the Softex leatherette. As you can see, got a nice perforation. It's a very soft and nice feeling seat overall. You can also get real leather, but you're going to need the limited or the platinum trims for that. Corresponding with the Softex leatherette, that's also where you unlock the power adjusting seat with 4-way lumbar support, as well as memory seats located over there on the door trim. And we'll go ahead and climb inside. Before we do that though, I will point out power running boards are on your very top models, or you can option on things like these Predator steps. Now, as far as the rest of the cabin materials are concerned, TRD Sport is kind of in the middle of the lineup, so they're mostly rugged materials. On the armrest, you have a leatherette padded area, although the center section here, as well as the top part of the door trim, is a hard touch plastic. The same is going to continue for the upper dashboard. You have a silver accented piece through here. You have an assist handle for your passenger side, and the rest of the plastics will also be hard touch. Now we'll fire it up with the push button start with the red button. With the truck all fired up, we can get into some individual details. We'll start with the gauge cluster as always. This is our 12.3-inch full digital cluster. This is on the vast majority of the 4Runner models, and you can reconfigure this with several different designs. Now, if you want something extra special, which would be a head-up display, you will have to choose the fully loaded Platinum. Now, taking a look at the steering wheel, we've got the nice leatherette wrapped steering wheel with the chunky design and big old buttons. The wheel itself is actually power, tilt, and telescoping, as well as heated, and that's because that's included as part of the TRD Sport Premium package. There's going to be quite a few features that I point out actually through this interior that the Premium adds to the TRD Sport. Now, let's take a look next at our interior storage. We'll open up our center console first of all. Inside, you'll notice we have some donuts. That's because here at Car Confections, that's our logo, and we like to do the donut test to check the volume and compare to the competition. Today we have 8 donuts inside, which is pretty respectable. In front of that, we have a couple cup holders. You have a big old storage bin right there. Wireless phone charging pad in the front and center, and then just a little bit of extra storage over there. But furthermore, I want to point out you've got a passenger storage shelf. And despite the good storage, we still have a traditional shifter as well. So just pull back for drive, bump over here to the left if you want to shift manually. There are not any paddle shifters on the steering wheel. And then when we head into reverse, here's another one of the premium package features. This is the 360-degree camera system. As you can see, nice resolution, you got the good overhead view, and you have a few other angles that you can choose from as well. If you get one of the more off-road capable trim levels, that will allow you to have the multi-terrain monitor, which is basically the 360 camera with some special off-road views. Speaking of off-road, you can see that we've got our control knob for our different drive modes, as well as our 4-wheel drive settings. Again, if you get some of the other off-road capable trim levels, such as the TRD off-road, that will allow the truck to give a lot more buttons and stuff down here. So that's why you see all those blank areas. Next up, we'll check out the climate controls. Of course, this truck is very analog, so you've got just a big meaty control here for the single zone automatic on this version. There's also manual and dual zone automatic, depending on the trim. We have standard heated seats on TRD Sport, and then the available ventilation coming with the premium package. And then right above that, you have your volume knob. The premium package includes the 14-speaker JBL sound system, and we'll give that a sample right now. overall sound quality is pretty good. Certainly plenty of bass, and it fills up the cabin nicely. And then you've probably maybe seen this, but one of the cool things about this, as well as in the Tacoma, is that you can actually pop this JBL speaker out. It's rechargeable, and bring it with you to the campsite or whatever else you might be doing. Now, getting into the central tech here, since we have the premium package, once again, we have the upgraded 14-inch display instead of the standard 8-inch display. This display is very large and prominent right next to the driver and passenger, and we have features such as wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is what you're looking at right now. Now, if I navigate back to the main system, I'll give you a look at what that is. Very simple. It's just Toyota's multimedia interface. One of the newer versions, although not the very latest and greatest, which is coming out on the new RAV4. Up top, we have an auto-dimming mirror with HomeLink universal remotes. Two things I want to point out in this area. First of all, we've got the available sunroof. It's just a standard size sunroof, and that would be included on your limited and platinum trims as standard equipment. The other thing I want to show off is the rear glass. So, of course, this is a signature 4Runner element, so rest assured Toyota did continue that on, the ability to roll down that glass all the way and get maximum airflow through the cabin.
And now, of course, we need to talk about the rear seats of the 4Runner. Now, when it comes to this space, it's going to be a good amount, but depending on, what you might be cross-shopping this with, if it's a Toyota Grand Highlander, for instance, it's certainly not as spacious as that, so just keep that in mind. Now, what are we looking at numbers-wise? Well, about 35 inches of legroom, 38 inches of headroom. Like I said, those are going to be pretty decent figures. I'm 5'9" for reference, and this seat is adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8". Of course, I brought along the official Car Confections ruler to give you a realistic knee room figure, and it's pretty solid, 7.5 inches of knee room, and I can also slide my feet up underneath of the seats. Now, let's also talk about some of the features. So the seats themselves are actually quite comfortable, and you do have a center armrest that has 2 cup holders inside, and we're not done yet because we have our own climate vents back here. And if you choose anything but the very base model, you will also get the USB ports back here. And additionally, we have a household style outlet. So certainly that's pretty nice. Heated back seats are only on the Platinum though, so keep that in mind. You can get it. It's just on the fully loaded example. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the door trim. It is going to be pretty cheap, so we have hard touch on the upper part and all through the center section. However, I am happy they leatherette padded the armrest, and I'm really also happy to see that there's quite a bit of storage. As you can see, there's plenty of room for a bottle, as well as some loose change or something in this pocket right here. Now, of course, we needed to also talk about the cargo area. Drew already mentioned that the rear glass does roll down. You can use these buttons right here. And we do have a hands-free power tailgate starting here on this TRD Sport Premium trim level. Now, let's go ahead and hit the cargo figures first and foremost. Now, they do vary depending on what powertrain you choose, as well as another feature I'll talk about in just a second. But what we're looking at today is about 49 cubic feet of space behind the second row seats. And if I fold those down, 90 cubic feet. That is a really exceptionally good cargo figure for this segment. And speaking of this segment and maybe some of the rivals you could be cross-shopping with, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. We've looked at all the 2-row midsize SUVs on the market and ranked them in the 10 most important categories. Categories like cargo capacity, interior technology, luxury, powertrain choices, and value. And you can see the best options for each of those categories if you go to our website. So if you want to make an informed buying decision, definitely check that out. Now, I do want to point out, if you choose the hybrid powertrain, that does reduce your overall cargo capacity down to about 82 cubic feet, so about 8 cubic feet less. And there's another cool feature that I want to mention. You can get a third row on the 4Runner, but it's on limited trim levels. Well, it's on the limited trim level, and it's also available on the SR5. So if you want a third row, you can get it. It's just not available on this specific version. Now, in order to fold the second row of seats, there are not any handles to do it back here in the cargo area, so I'll go ahead and do it from the second row. And now that I've got those seats folded down, just be aware there is a little bit of a gap. And let's get our cargo length, width, and height figures. So overall cargo length is very good. 78 inches behind Drew's 5'8" driving position. From behind the second row of seats, 45 inches of length. As far as the opening, that's fantastic. 49 inches wide, and the height, guys, that's where this car is really going to shine. 33 inches of height, and I think it gets even taller, yeah, about 37 inches if you get past that initial lip. So really good cargo space and practicality. And as far as the load-in height, that's pretty high at 33 inches, and there's quite a big bumper to get over, so just keep that in mind. As far as other features, we have a household outlet here on the right side. You have a couple cup holders as well, and then you have a spare tire that's integrated underneath of the bumper in typical 4Runner fashion. Well guys, here we are behind the wheel of the 2026 Toyota 4Runner. In this test drive, we'll be discussing a lot, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting things like our official Kentucky sound level reading. But first, we need to start with a hard acceleration.
All right. There we are, taking off and heading up to 60 miles per hour. So like we talked about with the spec dump, when it comes to this new generation of 4Runner, maybe the most radical thing about it is the all-new powertrain arrangement. So gone was the previous 4-liter V6, and in its place we have a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine as the base engine, and then you also have a hybrid option. We've got the standard option, which most people will probably still end up purchasing, mostly for price reasons. And this is a 2.4-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, 278 horsepower, and 317 pound-feet of torque. Now, if you're an owner of the previous generation, I know a lot of people are repeat customers of 4Runners. This is going to be a notable improvement, particularly when it comes to the torque figure over that 4-liter V6, and it certainly pushes you back in the seat better than the last generation.
Yeah, we've reviewed that last generation model several times, and like Drew said, I think the torque is really where you see the largest improvement when it comes to this turbo 4-cylinder. Now, of course, I do want to point out the obvious. It is a 4-cylinder as compared to a V6, so you do have a little bit more of that grindy sound entering into the cabin, but I think they've done a pretty good job of kind of masking that in this model, and it's especially masked if you choose the hybrid model. So that is also going to have a 2.4-liter turbo 4-cylinder. You have some electric components on that, 326 horsepower, 465 pound-feet of torque on that model. So that's obviously a huge increase over what you had in the previous generation 4Runner as a maximum. And, we've reviewed that version as well several times on the channel. So if you'd like to check out what that's like behind the wheel, you can hop on over to a couple different other videos that we have. But it's a big upgrade, I think, even compared to this traditional Turbo 4, if you're willing to spend the extra money for it.
Right, and I do want to point out as well, these are referred to as I-Force, and that's because they are beefed up for truck duty, because of course you're going off-road, you're towing things with this, and it is fully capable of doing those things, just like the previous 6-cylinder version. Now, as far as some other elements of the powertrain, we've got an 8-speed automatic transmission. Overall shifting here is nice and smooth. This is a good and responsive transmission, and again, a notable improvement over the previous generation.
And it is a 4Runner after all, so we have 4-wheel drive on this model. It is an option on several of the trim levels, so keep that in mind. You'll come standard with 2-wheel drive, or you can option on the 4-wheel drive system. It is also standard equipment on your off-road versions, as you would expect. If you choose the hybrid system, it is still a full-time 4-wheel drive system as well, so I do want to point that out. Now, there's a couple things I also want to point out for those of you that are going to be off-roading your 4Runner. You have a locking rear diff, and that's standard on the TRD off-road version, the TRD Pro, and the Trail Hunter. You also get a locking center diff, and that is on the Platinum and the Limited hybrid version. So a lot of off-road capability with this model. A lot of owners will take these off-roading, so I do want to point those specific off-road features out. We also have an addition for 2026, so now available, so optional on the TRD Off-Road Premium Hybrid, so it's kind of a lot of trim levels things there. You can get the stabilizer disconnect module for 2026, so that's one of the improvements when it comes to off-road capability and versatility with this 4Runner this year. All right, and we are speeding up to 55 miles per hour, so I will go ahead and get our sound level reading. Let me go ahead and toggle it to fan speed 1, and we'll see how quiet the 4Runner is. Looks like we've settled at 58.5 decibels as our sound level reading. This is our official Kentucky sound level reading. Previously, when we tested out the 4Runners, those were back in California, so I'm happy to give you that official figure. We don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to the competition. We can find that at carconfections.com/sound level readings. And when we do compare to the competition, that does mean that it's not going to be the quietest option that you can get in this segment. Things like the Kia Sorento, the Volkswagen Atlas, more of the street-focused models in this segment will have a quieter cabin overall. However, I don't think that's too bad whatsoever, especially considering how windy it is outside. It is a very windy day. And do, of course, keep in mind that the sound level reading will probably vary quite a lot depending on what trim level you select, because you have different tires as well as different suspension setups. So I think that
even different widths as well.
Yeah, a lot of differences between
There's
the
so
trims.
many different versions. Speaking of so many different versions, we can talk a little bit about ride quality as well. Like I mentioned with the wheels, kind of each version has these specific characteristics to the suspension to tailor it to the level of off-road capability. TRD Sport is a more street-focused trim level. As such, I think the ride quality is pretty good on board with this model. What do you think, Mason, with the larger wheels?
Yeah, I think the ride quality is definitely satisfactory for most people. Obviously, it's not going to ride as smooth as something like a Toyota Grand Highlander. It is on a body-on-frame platform, so keep that in mind depending on what you're going to be doing with this vehicle. You could get smoother ride out of a unibody crossover option. However, I think the ride they've done a pretty good job on for this 4Runner. Most people will be satisfied with it. I do also want to point out, if you want the best ride, I would select the Limited or the Platinum grades. The reason I say that is because they're going to get the adaptive variable suspension as standard equipment, which does help you to kind of isolate out some of those more truck-like imperfections that do enter in on some of your lower-end examples. Now I also want to talk about fuel economy. So when it comes to this, we're sitting at 192521 mpg, and that is for this particular model today, the standard engine with four-wheel drive. If you choose two-wheel drive, it's 22 mpg. And then if you choose the hybrid, that's actually going to have the best fuel economy in the lineup at 23 miles per gallon. So not only do you get the extra power and torque, you're also going to get 1 mpg better than, the standard option like what we're sitting at today. So certainly that's something to keep in mind. Like we did say, though, it is a pretty pricey option, so keep that in mind. And speaking of price, that's going to lead us into our Car Confections Slam Dunk and Airball. I'll kick us off with the Airball, which is our least favorite element, and just say that this 4Runner is pretty expensive. You probably have already seen, all the headlines and stuff. This truck is not cheap, that's for sure, especially if you want one with, a decent amount of luxury and equipment inside. We're sitting at over $60,000 on today's example, and certainly they can push, very close to $70,000 if you want all the options. So just keep that in mind. You do have to pay to play.
Now on the slam dunk side of things, it is what you get for the money. You get a truck that you can customize pretty much any way that you want it. You just have so many different selections. I think that you can really tailor that to what you plan to do with your 4Runner very specifically.
And let's talk pricing. So as I said at the very beginning of the video, we start at $41,500. There are a ton of trim levels. You can see the full lineup of prices on the screen right now. You end at the TRD Pro, which is a hair under $68,000 as a starting point. Prices are up about $800 or $900 for 2026, so just keep that in mind. And let's look at what we have today. So we have the 2026 TRD Sport Premium. I apologize, it's a little bit wet. The base price is $55,410. After we add some options, including that moonroof, $1495 destination, we're sitting at $60,417 as tested today. If you're curious as to where this is manufactured, I'm sure a lot of you guys will be happy to know that 4Runners are manufactured exclusively in Japan, unlike the Toyota Tacoma. Now, if you'd like to buy a Toyota 4Runner or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you should do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use while dealership negotiating. If you'd like to take advantage of that, as well as things like our monthly payment tool, you can find a link to that down below in our video description, as well as a pinned comment at the top of this video. But buying a vehicle is certainly about more than just the original MSRP, so let's quickly talk about resale and reliability. First up, let's talk about resale value. We estimate that this Toyota 4Runner will be worth 64.5% of original MSRP after 5 years and 60,000 miles, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 41.4%. Now, it's worth noting that is a very good resale value percentage. It's above that of almost every other vehicle brand out there, and historically speaking, the 4Runner is a very high resale value vehicle within the Toyota lineup.
Now, as far as reliability is concerned, Toyota also ranks very highly. It's actually the #1 overall automaker compared to all the competition.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values, our reliability data, or our methodology, go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Now, also important in your purchasing decision is the warranty. You have a 3-year 36,000 mile basic warranty, a 5-year 60,000 mile powertrain warranty. Additionally, Toyota does include 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. And guys, that wraps up our in-depth review of the 2026 Toyota 4Runner. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, which we hope you did, we'd really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to be a part of our Car Confections family. We have a lot of fun on this channel, and I promise you won't want to miss out. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support. You make this all possible. And we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.